a fun adventure as we discuss unique coaching styles. Coaching is a universal part of how we get others to get something done. Join your host, Rafael, and his guests on this unique journey in coaching.
Hi, I'm Sifu Rafael, and this is the Coaching Call podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. Zach, welcome to Coaching Call. Thank you for being here. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me, Sifu.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure. I'm super excited to get to know you in a deeper level. You've been on my other show, and we've had a couple of conversations so far, but you're a very interesting individual. I want to get deeper into that. So if you don't mind, tell me, where were you born, and who would you say influenced you even before the age of 10?
Okay, so I was born in Eugene, Oregon in 81. And my parents were city people from Chicago that moved out west to start a new life away from their family. And my mom was an artist, so she started a pottery studio, and they sold pottery all over the West Coast for many years. And then, yeah, me and my brothers, we grew up going to art shows and playing outside. I had a horse named Bud when I was young, and
Wow.
my mom said it was the best babysitter she ever had, because me and the horse would just hang out all day, and she was able to work and take care of my younger brothers.
How old were you when you guys got the horse?
I was about 4. Yeah, and I think there was a sad day, I think around when I was 7 or 8, where the horse passed away. And yeah, then there was other horses that came along, but nothing quite like Bud. They were a little wilder, and didn't have the same connection. And I kind of grew out of it. So, that happens too. So it was a lot of time outside and nature. Yeah.
Yeah, being that you grew up around horses, what I've been told is that the horses can actually feel your mood. Would you agree? Wait, did you hear
Well,
me?
in this case,
Okay.
I can hear you. Yeah, in this case, I think me and Bud had a great relationship. There was this book that I read as a kid, and there was a boy that was trying to get on his horse, and he tried all these different ways to get on the horse. He tried to get on by bringing the horse close to a fence, or climbing on a tree and then trying to get on the horse, and he just couldn't get on the horse until he figured out how, when the horse was eating grass, grabbing the horse by the neck, and then the horse would lift him up, and then he'd get on the horse. And so the next morning I tried that, and it was successful.
Pretty cool trick, right? So you probably just shared something that other people can start using.
Yeah, I think the little kids, for sure, if they're watching, they could do that. Yes.
Yeah, pretty cool. So talk to me about you. You talked about your brother, right? Who was older, you or him?
So I was the oldest brother, and I have 2 younger brothers. So I'm 3 years older and 5 years older than my younger brothers.
Gotcha.
And yeah, and my parents, we have the last name Smith, so they really wanted to give us something more unique, I think. And so our middle names are all kind of, more unique. So I'm Zachary Bonaventure, and then my younger brother is Belvedere, his middle name, and Beaumont is my youngest brother's middle name, and they all mean something. So Bonaventure means good ventures through life. At least that's what I was always told. And my middle brother Belvedere means beautiful view. And then my youngest brother, like Strong Mountain. And so, yeah, it just kind of gave us a little bit of, and ironically, yeah, Bonaventure is kind of a common name for the travel world and stuff. So that's kind of weird. And then my youngest brother is a geologist. So, he kind of embodied his middle name as well.
That's pretty interesting. You make me, I'm going to say something that people may not even know, and I'm going to say my middle name. And I'm going to tell you how I got it, right? It's Robinson, right? And my mom loved Robinson Crusoe as an explorer looking deep.
Yeah.
So think of that. So maybe that's where I get that. I always look deep. I always want to know more. I am an explorer. So there is something to it, isn't there?
I think so. When you hear it enough growing up, it sometimes seeps into your character. I think. I don't know.
Maybe. We might have just found something here as we both explore, right? So what was life like school-wise for you?
Well, the school, the elementary school I went to was pretty small, and yeah, maybe like, but yeah, great. I remember my teachers' names. They were all, really dedicated, and it was, yeah, I remember playing Oregon Trail on computers in an early age, and yeah, we did a oceanography report, a forestry report. I played sports, so our basketball team was pretty good. So yeah, but we lived right outside kind of the main town of Eugene, so that was more isolating. It was the town of Coburg. And then in middle school, I went to a much larger school in Eugene, and so that was a transition for sure into a school where, from going, knowing everyone to knowing only 20 kids out of 600. So, and you're all scrambled. So yeah, that was a new social experience, to make new friends from different parts of the area. So yeah, that became also kind of a fun journey to navigate that. And I remember at one point, not like being friends with a group of friends, and then all of a sudden kind of getting excommunicated from that group of friends, and like feeling lonely. And then me and a couple other friends became closer, and then we became one large friend group again. So it was just, I remember those dynamics, and probably common in that age.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you talked about travel. When was the first time you traveled out of that area? What was that like? What were you thinking? Who took you? Or was it by yourself? Was it your parents? What was that first time you left?
The very first time I left, like, the country, was in high school, actually. A family friend invited me to join them to go to Mexico. And so we had a spring break experience there, and that was very typical resort experience. And I was 18 at the time, so you could go out and drink a beer, which was like a big deal. And then I remember seeing Mariah Carey at one of the places we went out to at night. It was sun and beach, and yeah, I got a sunburn that was very painful. I remember that.
So a lot of people think spring break chaos.
Yeah,
right?
And that's kind of what, I was young, but that's kind of what it was. That was my first exposure to travel. And it very much what felt like, oh, this is a party, and this is drinking. Not that the family that I went with was into that, but that was just the atmosphere. that we found ourselves in, frankly.
Mm.
And so it was very much, I think that the English and Australians, they have better terminology for this. It's holiday. It's not travel. That
Right.
was just a holiday, where every day is a holiday. You're
Yeah.
overeating, you're over drinking, you're relaxing. You're not really exploring, and you're not essentially connecting with much of a culture there. You're simply getting, a holiday experience.
Yeah. You're
And
getting
that's,
away for a few days.
yeah, and that's different than a travel experience, I think, if we could define. Yeah.
How long was that first?
That was a week. Yeah.
A week?
It was just, yeah, it was a week. And then it did give me a sense of like, wow, this is a big world. It definitely expanded my horizons. And then I would say in college, I did a couple road trips where I, went around the West Coast. And then I did a study abroad in Europe, and that was my second time international. So I chose Vienna because on a map, it's kind of the center of Europe. You can get to the Eastern Europe really easily. You can get south, you can go west. So it was a strategic location for me. And
smart
yeah,
location.
yeah, the city itself, Vienna, was very clean, very, very nice. I didn't really, I did a lot of intensive German language study before the trip, but I would say I still didn't love speaking the language. It was hard for me. Spanish came much easier, actually. I started that at a younger age and had a bit more exposure and practice to that. German was hard. And so that maybe limited a bit of my experience. But from Vienna, I was able to travel a lot with small groups or on my own. And that was backpacking, essentially. You grab your stuff and you jump on a train and you show up in a new city, you walk around, and very independent and free. And
Nice.
so that was, I guess, the first real traveling experience I had as an independent adult. And yeah, so parts of Cinque Terre in 2002 or 2003, I think, and then down into Spain, and this, one of my favorite places was this area in southern Spain, where they have the Alhambra, which is where there's a mix between the Arab culture and Spanish culture. And so that was really, really a fascinating part of the world. So yeah, I, explored, and that just, again, once it broadened my perspective, it gave me more sense of kind of how things were on the ground in different countries. Not to say that I knew everything, but it gave me a sense of like, life has rhythms to it, no matter where you're at. And some of those rhythms are kind of constant. And yeah, the colors and the smells and the food might be a bit different. However, it's still people just going about their day, living a peaceful life. And the aesthetic and the background is a bit different. And that's what makes it kind of exciting and cool to experience for the first time.
Yeah. I think I was in Jamaica, and I met this guy. He was traveling, I think 2 years at that point. He left his home and with his fiance, and they just traveled. He did business virtually, and this is before people even thought of virtual business, but that's how he did his business. And he was extremely well off, but he lived in hotel rooms, and he would always get the suite. He'd always get the nicest of the places. And I said to him, "Don't you miss home?" He said to me, and I thought this was pretty smart. He goes, "No, home is where I am. Wherever I go, I make it my home." So I get into the culture. So he'll be at a hotel for 3-4 months, And then he'll go, okay, I'm tired. I want to go somewhere else. So he'll go to another exclusive resort. But from the resort, then he will go out into the neighborhoods and get to know where the good places to eat and all this stuff. So I was able to share some time with him as well, because I was there like 2 weeks.
Mm.
And we went to some restaurants that he knew of, right? And even though we were at this resort, we still left it because it was different, right? And it was pretty interesting. But I love the idea of what he said is home is wherever I am.
Yeah.
And so understanding that, yes, you may have the comforts. Maybe you went and bought your own furniture, but it's still furniture, right? It's what you make of it.
Yeah. And I agree with that sentiment.
Mhm.
However, it's not practical for a lot of people to
Of course
live
not.
like. So we do make a home, and we make a community. And I think to travel, you have to be intentional about it, because you should really enjoy your home. Your home is your home. It's your
Mm,
base. And your time is limited. Your resources, in most cases, are also limited. And it's important to be intentional about where you're going to go, what you're going to learn, who you're going to run into, and how that's going to work. And because you're leaving home, and that's the foundation of real travel. Is there's a little bit of struggle there. You're taking on a tiny bit of hardship to leave home, right? Where you're based out of, to go experience something new, or in the historical root of the word was actually a lot of religious pilgrimages. And so travel was wrapped up in, oh, I'm leaving home to go see this faraway place because that's my duty as a person of faith. And so the long road to get there was a struggle,
mm.
or the means of transportation to get there, and it was uncomfortable. And we've made travel very comfortable,
Oh yeah.
but
Thank
I
God for
just
that.
yeah, I do think there's a balance between what's a holiday and what's travel. And of course, modern real travel is culturally connecting, ecotourism, seeing places, and moving around the culture, rather than, as I say, flying and flopping and just being on holiday. Yeah, you might be in a new place, but you're not able to really connect. And another form of travel, which your friend is doing, is essentially what's called deep travel, where you're going deeper in the culture. You're living there for a period of time, and
Right.
you can get deep travel within a week or 10 days, but 4 months is certainly almost like a community member at that point.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody knows your name, kind of like Cheers, right?
Yeah,
Back in
yeah.
the day. I also, I got to tell you, there was another place that I traveled on, and it was a boat, and it was a cruise. I
Mhm.
did it once, not for me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you why. Because I don't like to be confined. I want to go wherever I want to go. If there's a port, or if there's this, if I want to go to this island, if I want to go to the beach, I want to go for a walk, not just in a circle, because that's what I wound up doing on a boat, right? It was a huge boat, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And there, I went to different parties. I went to people's um, lavish settings, and I was invited to all these incredible things. And there was nightclub and shows, and it could be, it's a floating hotel to me, right? But even when I go to a hotel, I don't want to stay in the hotel the whole time. I want to go out. Um, but the interesting thing is that one of the gentlemen that I met there, him and his wife were living there, and they actually had sold their house, and they said it's better for us to live here, and it's cheaper than paying a mortgage, and it was better for them, and they got to travel the world, if you want, wherever that cruise ship was going, and they got to meet a ton of different people. And this is why he's the one that invited me to come up and have this party at his facility. And it was interesting. It was a lot of fun. We met a lot of people. Uh, but he enjoyed that, living away from home, but now he made it his home. And then he would introduce himself to other people, and then have a gathering so he can
Yeah.
share time with them. So it was pretty interesting, but not something and I've been offered to go on cruises. People said, "Oh, you don't have to pay. You don't have to do anything." I'm like, I don't have to go either. So I'm not going.
Well,
What are your
yeah.
thoughts on cruises? Because I know
Well,
this is one of the things that we've spoken about.
first of all, they are large malls, hotel resorts, and it's a closed system, as you said. You're in that system,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of stimulation and entertainment and noise, and you just can't escape it. And I think, like your friend, maybe if you're very, very social and you just think it's the greatest place on earth, kind of like Disneyland, some people think it is the greatest place on earth. They love it. They want to live it every day.
Right.
That's fine. It's just not travel. And the other thing about cruises is, for the ports that they enter, they market, oh, wow, you're going to go visit all these places. However, okay, when the ship stops, there's what, a couple thousand people that all need to get off the boat. And
Right.
how far do they really go? They just go to this small little circuit. They're not really experiencing anything in that place or culture, yet it's
Right.
being marketed to them. They're stuck in a line to get off the boat. They're stuck in a line to get back on the boat.
Mhm.
They're going to the same little souvenir shops or whatever. So it's to me, it's a very destructive industry. There's
Mm.
a lot of pollution that goes along with it, and again, it's not a good deal for the main hook, like the cultures that they're trying to say, hey, you're going to go to Croatia and Greece and all these places all at once, and it's like, no, you're kind of not, because you're just got a couple hours there and you're in this herd the whole time.
Right.
That's not experiencing Greece in any way. So I think it's just it's a system that I think is problematic,
Mm.
and yeah, but it's very popular, and I just think there needs to be a very clear definition that it is not travel. It
Yeah.
it is a it is a floating hotel, and there's just conveniences that come with that,
Yeah.
but there's not really a broad set of experiences. There's a closed series of experiences that you can have.
Absolutely. I call
And
it confinement.
yeah, right. So my passion is to make it easier for the free and independent traveler to go actually travel to these places and connect with the culture. So an independent traveler is not someone that's excited to be in a closed system. So they're just, the audience that is, loving the cruises, they're just not our audience. And that's okay. There's plenty of people that they can do business with, and they can go find to figure out how to get on the biggest, nicest cruise ship. That they won't find that from us.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that, if you look at the cruise industry, it is a huge industry, and like you said, it is a herd, right? But we see it that way. They don't see it that way. They see it as an experience. I'm going to go to Greece. I'm going to go Alaska. I'm going to go the Caribbean. But when I experienced it myself, I did not experience anything but being on a boat. And yeah, we were able to go to an island, a Caribbean island, for 6 hours, right? But the funny thing is, you have to be back on the boat at a certain time.
Mhm.
And we were pulling out of port and there were people who didn't make it. So now what does your trip look like? It looks like a nightmare, right? It
Oh
looks
yeah.
like now you all your stuff is on the boat. Your boat is you seeing it go away, and now maybe you have only a couple of you know, bills on you. Maybe you have your credit card. Now you have to make do. You have to figure it out. And whose fault is it? It's your fault because you didn't come back in time. But now all of a sudden, it's no longer vacation. It's no longer holiday. It's more of a headache. So moving away from cruising, you've taken several trips before you got into the industry.
Mhm.
What was one of your most favorite trips before you even got into the industry?
It was when I took a one-way ticket with a friend after graduating college to Oaxaca, Mexico.
Mm,
It was December 2004, so the days were getting shorter up in the
mm,
Northwest, and it was wet and rainy, and there was sunshine and tacos down in
mm,
Oaxaca. And so me and a friend, we just, yeah, took the plunge, had a backpack full of books,
wow.
and met people along the way, stopped at different beaches for 5, 6 nights. There was one beach we found called Mazunte, and we stayed there for, I think, almost 2 weeks. We had a
Mm,
little villa on the mountain, and we just body surfed and, drank passion fruit smoothies and yeah, just sampled local tacos. It was wonderful.
mm,
So yeah, and that really kind of relaxed me, I would say.
mm,
Um, and and it gave me this sense that, wow, this is a region that is really enjoyable for a free and independent traveler because the people are so nice. There's good food all over the place, and I was just excited about continuing and exploring the next village and the next town, and we continued making our way all the way through Central America. So we
oh
stopped
my.
we stopped in Guatemala, we stopped in Nicaragua, we stopped in Costa Rica. I made my way down to Panama.
Mm,
So it was a real long experience where I could sense the differences as we moved through the cultures. But again, there was a thread of common language and general safety. I never really felt unsafe. There was one night we were in San Salvador City at night at a bus station, and that was a little seedy. I wouldn't recommend that for families. However, as a 24-year-old just moving their way through the world, it just felt exciting. And
mm,
so, yeah, that was a really, really nice time. And I would say that for young people moving, independently around different cultures, just budget some time, save some
mm,
money, go and do that. It'll build your sense of self and give you more perspective. And maybe, in my case, it led to a series of different relationships that led to starting a travel business. And
mm,
so I couldn't have predicted that. It just ended up
right.
organically happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long was that excursion, if you will?
Well, I left in December of 2004, and I did not come back until June of 2005.
Okay.
So it
Nice.
was close to 6 months, and I would say part of it was my ability to meet the right people
Mm,
and ended up extending my trip by working in tourism a little bit. I ended up answering emails for people that were interested in visiting Costa Rica.
mm,
And so I learned how relationships with hotels and private drivers and travel guides could all assist in making the experience better for the visitor.
mm,
So being in that information business, having real knowledge about the place and sharing that with a traveler and giving them a sense, okay, yeah, we can set this up for you and this up for you and this up for you. So then when you're arriving and experiencing these places, it feels more like a flow rather than a true backpacker, which is what I was, where we didn't know where the heck we were going. We would just be like, okay, we missed this bus, okay, let's just go grab lunch and whatever. But if you only have 7 days or 10 days, all those moments are pretty critical. You really want it to connect and have that whole trip be seamless. And so that was really, my intention, to put myself in the shoes of the visitor and share what I knew to alleviate that stress and anxiety and give them the confidence that, hey, this trip is going to flow really nicely. So that was always something to improve on. And there was so many things that we could do over time to broaden all the services we could execute and get better at communicating with the visitor, how to use our network in the most advantageous way for them.
Right.
And later on, really dedicating to Costa Ricans representing their country rather than, a traveler who was just there for 3 or 4 months.
Right.
So that evolved over time. So that was just, again, there was always problems to solve. And so,
yeah, it's interesting when there are problems to solve that we can either just think it's a problem, or we can say, hey, the solution is going to be fun. Let me figure it out. Right.
Sure. Well, yeah. And in some cases, this is, skipping ahead a little bit, but when I was starting a business down in Costa Rica, and we had a really great manager, but he had been taught that I need to bring solutions. And I said, I want to know what the problem is so we can help craft the best solution. If you hide problems from me, I can't help build a solution so it's no longer a problem.
Correct.
Or, I can't understand it and give us a policy choice in order to improve it. So that was a cultural thing that had to kind of really work on, that person and other people in particular to just, be open about the problems. What's bothering you? Tell, unearth the things that are annoying and stressful. So we help alleviate that.
Yeah. It's interesting that, that December in 2004 culminated to you starting a business. When did you truly realize that this is what I'm going to be doing? Was it somebody said something? Was it a moment in time? Was it you saying, hey, now I'm coming back home. Now I want to do this more and I want to help people get into it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the moment is very clear in my mind. So I was with this French Canadian named Jacques up at the top of the Continental Divide in Monteverde, overlooking Lake Arenal and the Arenal volcano, taking photos as lava was coming out of this volcano.
Oh my goodness.
Every 20 minutes it would come down. We're taking pictures. And I had been working for Jacques for about a month at this point, maybe even less. And we were friends and communicating. And I said, I think this business has a lot of potential. And he says, oh, yes. There should be 6 or 7 owners, and we just each work 3 or 4 months, and then we go travel the rest of the time. He had this very romantic idea about it. And I said, I don't know if that's going to be feasible. But he said, well, why don't you go ahead and study the numbers from the last few years. And I think I have a number in my head that would be good for me. And so I just, in my own time, looked up a Microsoft Access database and got everything into Excel, and then looked at all the reservations that had been processed over the last few years, which were just manual entries onto different sheets. And so I started really getting a sense of the business. And, but it was that night with him that I was like, I can do this. And he's willing to sell. And I don't know how I'm going to figure it out, but I'm going to try. And so that became a really, in my own time, I learned the numbers. And then I was in another town, actually, in an aerial tram going through the rainforest. And I hadn't told anyone about my plan. There was, of course, my friends and family back home. I didn't tell them anything. There was other employees and working for Jacques. I couldn't tell them what I was up to, what I was thinking about. But here I am on this aerial tram going up, and there's a couple across from me, and they say, "Hey, what are you up to?" And I was like, maybe I should tell this person. Why not? And I said, I'm thinking about, getting involved in the tourism business here in Costa Rica. And that ended up turning into my business partner. Oh, honey.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Rob is busy, honey. You got to go to school. Go with mama, please.
Go learn some good stuff.
Yeah, but that was just really a life-changing moment, because that, person on the other side of the aerial tram was open to, starting a business also, and happened to be a software engineer, which I knew I needed a technology partner. So it ended up just being a perfect match at the right time. And I just think that.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me you found your partner on a tram?
Yeah, not only that, the first person I uttered the words to.
Wow.
It's nuts. I know, it's weird. Yeah. So
and you didn't not know this person at all.
No, he was on a package trip visiting 3 places and with his wife at the time, and just happened to be there. That's it. And after the aerial tram, he said, "Hey, we should stay in touch." And I said, "Sure, why not?" I mean, I knew that I could find a technology partner somewhere along the line. I had an okay network back home. I would have figured it out. But this person ended up being, honestly, the best partner, and has dedicated so much time and energy to building the platform to execute on the promise of traveling stress-free and being able to coordinate all the itinerary planning and stuff. There's a lot of data and information, actually, that just needs to be structured.
Of course.
As people are moving through space and time, and we're involving all these third parties to show up at the right time. So there's a lot of coordination, and he just kept on grinding and grinding and grinding. And yeah, so it's evolved over the last almost 20 years now. Yeah.
So it's been 20 years. Look at that.
Yeah.
When you, so you bought the business from Jacko?
Yeah, I did. It was, I actually went back to Costa Rica I wrote a business. So first of all, I left Costa Rica in June, and Jack and I had a handshake deal that I would come back. I didn't know when I'd come back. I didn't know, how long it would take me to raise some money. I had no idea. So I came back home. I just actually got to work painting houses to earn some money with my brothers. It's sort of a thing you can do in the Northwest if you have if you're willing to hustle. And my dad actually lined up a few jobs for us. So, we would paint one house, and then the neighbor would be like, "You guys are doing great. Well, I want to paint my house." So it just all really cool that way. And then at night, I was writing a business plan in a coffee shop learning about tourism, learning about, what the positioning of the business was. I shared it with my uncle, who was an executive. He helped me refine it a little bit, shared it with a local banker. He's like, this sounds really interesting, but we're not going to touch it. So ended up, getting some promissory notes from friends and family. And then my parents made a sacrifice. They put a mortgage on, refinanced their house, and was able to pull out a little bit of money for me. And so it was really my mom who said, hey, if we're not going to bet on our kids, what are we doing? And so it was really a risk that they took. But it was so clear for me. It wasn't clear to my friends that were going to grad school, and it wasn't clear to my friends that were going to med school, trying to, say, well, what are you going to do? That sounds kind of crazy. You're starting a business in Costa Rica. But at any rate, I had clarity on the positioning and the opportunity. And so I went back in December of 2005. And when I arrived, all the backpackers that were working at the business left. And there was 150 emails in the inbox piling up. And if we didn't answer those emails, then there wouldn't be a business to buy. So I had to just jump right in and communicate with all these people. I hired locals for Jacques. I didn't have a contract. I didn't buy the business from him at this point, but it was just simply a necessary thing in order to salvage the opportunity. So what was hard was I started putting in all these management practices. Business started doing really good. And Jacques is sitting back saying, this is great. And I was like, wait a minute, but we don't have a deal yet. And he is a very difficult person. I mean, love him in some ways, but very, very hard person. And I in February 2006, I had to just walk away. I said, listen, I'm not going to just get strung along here. I'm out. I'm going to go. I have some capital. I have a plan. I'm going to execute in another way. And so that was something I was willing to do. And I gave it about 10 days. I traveled a little bit around Costa Rica, and then I called Jacques back, and he said, I'm going to send a private car. Let's do the deal. I'm ready. So in March of 2006, we were able to, sign an agreement. And then, it was just basically a couple domains that had some web traffic and some somewhat informal relationships with hotels. So there was some cash flow that was coming in, but it was very, there was a lot of issues with how the operation was functioning. So it became, to give you an example, at the time, there was one person that could answer emails from one website, and then another person that could answer emails from another website. So there was no ability to bring more people into the organization. So there was just these 2 shifts per day that, people could work to answer emails. So again, we put in a little server and, cleaned up the office. I mean, the guy was a real mess. And so, it just was, putting in work, putting in time, cleaning up the reputation and professionalizing it. And then the real first expression of what our vision was after we kind of cleaned up those websites and got some operational practices going was anywherecostarica.com. So we launched that in 2007, and that was our first real execution of what we wanted, which was a guidebook for the entire country, relationships around the whole country. So I went around and met hotel owner after hotel owner. I took pictures of hotel rooms. I met tour operators in different places. We expanded our private transport network. So then when we would get inquiries, we could help design a trip for all of Costa Rica. So it was a lot of publishing of information. And at the time, Google really rewarded that. So by 2008, 2009, 2010, we started getting a lot more traffic because we started ranking for our content.
Oh, nice.
And we were getting 10, 12,000 people a day by the time we hit 2011. So that was really exciting. And we added Panama, which was a similar model.
Right.
But it was still really hard to expand the business in an efficient way. I gave a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on the ground for almost 3.5 years, in the office, around the country, connecting with visitors. And then also for the local team, hey, they don't have as wide of a perspective as even someone like me, who's, at the time I was maybe been to 15 countries and this and that. It's not like I knew the whole world or anything. So, but either way, they had pretty much been only in a couple towns in their own country. They'd only been, to 3 or 4 spots, and all of a sudden their whole country is like a new world that they're trying to, sell, or give advice for. So we had to educate them, so help them understand their country better and the logistics involved. So, we called those fam trips. So they would go around as a group and meet all these hotels as well, and travel from point to point and learn about more perspective about their own country. And in addition to that, a lot of them had never been on an airplane before.
Oh, wow. So, look at
that. For a visitor who, Costa Rica is one of maybe a dozen countries they've been to, and they've been on a plane a whole bunch of times. And so for the local team, it's hard to imagine showing up in such an unfamiliar place.
Yeah.
And really trying to put themselves in the shoes of a visitor. It requires them to imagine something they've never experienced. Yeah. And so, and to really, build the empathy, because again, they can dismiss, oh, wow, you're upset about waiting for 5 minutes, or you're stressed out because, the luggage was late, and we're going to get it to you. Don't worry about it. Like, for them to actually understand that those are feelings that can really disrupt an experience. Right. And so really being empathetic to that, and that they're in an unfamiliar place as, a first-time visitor. And so, yeah, there was a lot of, practicing that communication and really, for them to understand the significance of it all. So, yeah, that was one way in which we also differentiated ourselves. We didn't really want to just sell a booking. We wanted to design a whole experience.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Yeah. And so then we're taking accountable for all those moments, and for our local team to understand those moments are really, they matter. They matter in the planning stage. They matter certainly upon arrival. So yeah, just trying to elevate the standard there was at the time in 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009 was not happening. And so we've been able to really carry that forward for many, many years, and now find partners in other countries that understand that right from the beginning. And they know their culture really well. And so we can form a partnership with them, and our clients can get that same trusted experience.
Love it. Love it. Wow, this is so interesting. Let me share a video with you, and then we'll be right back.
You've followed the rules, tried the restrictions, counted the carbs, the steps, and the failures. You're not lazy, you're exhausted from doing it all without real change. What if the problem isn't you, but the plan? Sifu's Mind Body Method is a 90-day transformation built on 7 unshakable pillars: mindset, movement, nutrition, hydration, fasting, journaling, and faith. This isn't another shortcut. It's your structure, your strength, your reset. You don't need harder, you need better. Ready to begin? Start today.
That's it. Let's get involved. One of the things that you probably don't realize when you're booking all these excursions, if you will, on the regular, is that you're not going to necessarily be eating the necessarily healthy food. You're going to be eating what they want you to eat, right? When you go to all these resorts, it's not what I just shared, the video of eating healthy and nutrition and all these different things. And we talked about a cruise ship where there's noise all the time, so you're not getting the proper sleep, and you're not used to being on something that's turbulence, if you will, constantly sometimes, because that's what happened on my cruise ship, right? It was constant turbulence, and you're not as comfortable as you could be unless you do an experience like what you're talking about. And I love the fact that you allowed the people who are boots on the ground, if you will, to experience what other people experience so that they have a firsthand knowledge of what someone may be going through and how they can help them. How important was that, and whose decision was it to do that? Was that your clever idea, or somebody suggested it to you?
Well, in travel, particularly, the people that are responsible for coordinating travelers and making bookings, we have a relationship with hotel owners, and we have a relationship with tour operators, and they know that it's important for our team to have perspective, and in order to better advise that visitor. And in our case, we worked with so many different suppliers. We were a little different. There was a lot of travel agencies that only worked with maybe 15 or 20 hotels. We worked with 350, and we wanted to work with wide ranges of experiences so we could be a better matchmaker. So I would say that there's this thing called low season, which, everyone gets that. But in Costa Rica, low season, it can be pretty low. And so there's not a whole lot to do. And so that's the time where we've coordinated those familiarization experiences. And so I wouldn't say that it came from me, but it just is a best practice for the sort of role that we played.
It's an immersion, right?
Yeah, that's right. And again, they have a good time. They're outside of the office. They're hanging out. It's a little mini vacation for them. It's work, but of course it's kind of fun to go to the beach and see different places and stay in a nice hotel, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So Zach, your website, which I'm going to throw up here, right? I love it. Anywhere.com.
Yeah, it's aspirational. Yeah, we've been working our way towards this, and yeah, now it's kind of come to fruition. We have a global team and a global concierge experience where we can help advise people if they're not sure which country to go to. We can really help them refine that. So yeah, it's been a dream to continue to bring this sort of client-centered travel to more people. Because I think the travel industry at large automates a lot of things. It's kind of like a giant vending machine where all the pressure and stress is upon you, the visitor, and you don't have complete information. And it's really hard to get complete information. You're reading all these different websites. Now you're going into ChatGPT, give me an itinerary for this and this and this. But boots on the ground is the key. And that's where you get the relationship, the trust building, and really that ability to have the confidence that you're going to get everything you want about your travel. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. So let me ask you, so you work with individuals. Do you also work with corporations?
Sometimes there's retreats and things like that. I mean, a lot of the countries that we operate in, they're more leisure travel, adventure travel, and for American corporates, it's not really a great place to have a big conference, for example.
Mm-hmm.
However, for incentives and ways in which a leadership team might want to go and connect, then we can definitely design travel for them. We've done a number of small group retreats for people, and so that's really our bread and butter. Mm-hmm.
Nice. So because you said that, I want to share something that we're doing, and then we can talk about maybe how your company can be part of it. Take a look.
The city never sleeps, and neither do the dreamers who build its pulse. From every corner of the globe they come. Visionaries, creators, leaders, each carrying a spark ready to ignite the world. This is not an event. It's a revolution of rhythm and reason. A symphony of minds. A movement of momentum. Sifu Rafael, Lancelot, Jose Escobar. Together they set the stage for brilliance. This is the NYC experience. Mastermind, light up the city. They coming from the east, coming from the west. Knowledge on deck, put the truth to the test. Leaders in motion, hearts in sync, dropping wisdom so deep it'll make you think. They bring stories, sweat and flame, different faces, one shared name. Elevation, that's the sound. NYC experience, mastermind, where purpose is found.
So we're taking it to Tampa, right? And so we started in New York City, but I said we need to take the New York City experience to different places. So we are taking it to Tampa. We're going to Ireland. We're going to Atlanta. We're going to different places, but we also want to take it to other countries. So we are looking at Ireland. And with an experience like that, what we're looking to do is have masterminds and curated experiences for people to experience the vibe that we bring, but also to experience the culture. And who to better help us with that than your company, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of those sort of, the conference experience, picking the right environment, the right property, the right room to be in, that's a big key.
Right.
And then, the extensions before or after, where you're able to experience what's there in the country. And a lot of business type retreats, sometimes it's like, oh, I'm in and I'm out. So I think it would be important to encourage some of the attendees, hey, there's this experience. There's a group of 8 that can do this after the trip, and there's a group of 10 that can do this after the trip, or there's a group of 8 that can do this before the trip. Because oftentimes when you're in the conference and the mastermind experience, you really want to be connecting with each other, and that's the key, because there's so much value from those relationships and how they can cross-pollinate. However, kind of outside of that, it's then the values of, hey, let's celebrate and understand where we're at, what makes Ireland Ireland.
Absolutely. And you said it exactly the way that we want to present it, is because it becomes an experience. And I've been to so many events, and it's like you said, you arrive, you leave and then like, I got nothing out of it. And so for us, it's the experience, I think, is one of the most important parts of it, so that people can walk away with saying, not only did I learn stuff, I made connections, but the experience was amazing because they're going to take pictures, they're going to do all the different things. I mean, you saw in the video that we took people to a rooftop in New York City. I mean, isn't that amazing? And we took him to Rockefeller Center. We took him to 34th Street. We took him to by the Empire State Building. And so it is an experience, but some people who've never been to New York are like, I need to get there. Some people who haven't been to Ireland say, I've never been there, but I want to. And then I've heard other people say, I've been to Ireland so many times, but I want to go with you guys. So it makes it different, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so before we wrap it up, and I want to thank you for being with us today. It really enlightened me in what you do and how you're doing it, and the passion that you have behind it, because you're helping people, and like I said before, to be immersed in the experience, to really feel it at a deeper level than if you just went there. If you got onto one of these websites and you went there and you know nothing, you don't have a guide, if you will, right? So one more time, I'm going to connect you. I'll put your information on here. Tell us why anyone should go to anywhere.com.
Well, if you believe that you want to be present with a culture, with people, and connect with them, then we're here to help. If you're an independent-minded, curious person that wants to control every aspect of their trip, and you've been stressing out about what to do and how to figure it all out, we're here to help. So we get it. The standard that each of these clients have is very high. I mean, vacations are precious. They're expensive, and we're empathetic to that, and we want no moment of regret on this trip.
That's it. I like that. No moment of regret. No missing the boat, if you will. Right.
Well, listen, regret's a big word, but the truth is there's these moments, if you consider how much it costs to get to some place, and if you're wasting 3 hours here, or you don't like a hotel there, or you had a bad meal here, those start to add up and say, wow, that was a missed opportunity.
Right.
So the opportunity cost of getting it wrong is pretty high in travel.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody, make sure that you go to anywhere.com and talk to Zach or his crew, because you're curating more spaces, more places that people can get in touch with. So Zach, so blessed to know you. Thank you so much. Do me a favor, hang out for a minute afterwards. Everybody have yourself an exceptional day. Do me a favor, share the show with somebody. Somebody needs to hear what we talked about today. And somebody needs to go to anywhere.com. Everybody, God bless. Have a beautiful rest of your day.